For over a century, we thought we had the Egyptian afterlife all figured out. You know, the spells, the gods, the Book of the Dead. But what if one of the most powerful tools for an Egyptian's journey into eternity wasn't even Egyptian? What if a page from a legendary Greek story could be just as powerful as a prayer to an Egyptian god? Discoveries in Egypt have shown us a world where epic poetry could become a magical key to the next life. The world we knew. For thousands of years, the Egyptian path to the afterlife was one of the most elaborate rituals in history. The core belief was simple but powerful. Death isn't the end, it's just a very dangerous trip. To make it through, you needed a guide. That guide was the Book of the Dead, basically a collection of cheat codes, spells and incantations to protect your soul as it navigated the underworld and faced the final judgment before the god Osiris. The body was a vessel, and mummification was the art of preserving it so the soul could find its way back. Every single step was deliberate, from placing protective amulets in the linen wraps to saying a prayer to Anubis. For centuries, this was the deal. The tools for immortality were purely Egyptian, forged from their own spiritual beliefs. Or so we thought. But it turns out the ancient world was a lot more complicated and a lot more interesting. The anomaly. A few hours south of Cairo lies the modern town of Al-Banasa. But buried underneath it are the ruins of a much older city, a place the Greeks called Oxyrhynchus. For archaeologists, Oxyrhynchus is legendary. Its dry climate preserved one of the greatest treasures in the world, papyrus. For more than a century, excavators have pulled hundreds of thousands of papyrus scraps from the city's ancient garbage dumps, everything from lost plays and shopping lists to personal letters that have opened an amazing window into the daily lives of ancient people. But recent work by teams from institutions like the University of Barcelona has focused on a vast necropolis, a city of the dead from the Ptolemaic and Roman periods. Here, they've uncovered tombs filled with mummies. It was during these excavations that something truly unusual came to light. In a tomb from the Roman era, archaeologists found a mummy that was prepared for burial roughly 1,600 years ago. As they examined it, they didn't find a golden mask or a priceless jewel. Instead, they found a small, sealed packet made of papyrus. Now, finding sealed papyri with mummies isn't unheard of. They often contain magical spells. But this felt different. Papyrologists carefully analyzed the fragile document. What they found wasn't an Egyptian spell. It wasn't a prayer to Osiris. It was written in Greek, and it was a passage from one of the most famous stories ever told. The investigation. The text was from Homer's Iliad, the epic poem about the Trojan War. Now, finding a bit of the Iliad in Oxyrhynchus isn't a shock on its own. Homer was the bedrock of Greek education. School children copied his lines, and owning a copy was a status symbol. But context is everything, and the context here was baffling. This wasn't a scroll in a library. This was a piece of literature deliberately placed with a mummy as part of a sacred funerary ritual, one of the first and clearest examples of this ever found. What made it even weirder was the specific passage. It wasn't a dramatic battle or a big speech. The fragment was from Book 2, a section called the Catalogue of Ships. It's a long, detailed list of all the Greek commanders, where they came from, and how many ships they brought to Troy. It's the kind of chapter modern readers tend to skim. So why would someone want this specific, almost encyclopedic list to be their ticket into the next life? To answer that, you have to understand the world this person lived in. Roman Egypt wasn't just Egyptian or Greek or Roman, it was a mashup of all three. For centuries, these cultures had been mixing, creating a vibrant society where people blended traditions. You might pray to an Egyptian god with a Greek name, or add Roman-style portraits to an Egyptian burial. Funerals became super personal. At the same site in Oxyrhynchus, archaeologists have even found mummies with gold tongues, amulets meant to help the dead speak to the gods. A burial was no longer a one-size-fits-all ritual. It was a custom toolkit for eternity. The idea that a burial could be a custom-built toolkit for the afterlife just changes everything. It makes you wonder what other stories or beliefs ancient people repurposed for their most sacred moments. If you find this kind of stuff fascinating, make sure to subscribe and join us for more dives into history's biggest mysteries. The immortal secret. The researchers who analyzed the papyrus believe it wasn't there because the person was a literature nerd. It was there because it had been transformed. For the person being buried, Homer's words weren't just a story anymore. They had become a magical object, a protective amulet. This might sound strange to us, but in the ancient world, the line between literature and magic was incredibly thin. Words had power. There's other evidence of Homer's verses being used in magical charms to heal people. The Greek-Egyptian magical handbooks, collections of spells and rituals from this same period, are full of references to Homer. His epic poetry was seen as powerful and able to influence the world of gods and spirits. So, that Catalogue of Ships might not have been a random choice at all. Maybe this long list of heroes and armies was seen as a powerful spell, like a roll call of powerful ghosts to protect the person on their journey. Or maybe it was a kind of spiritual passport, a way of showing off a prestigious Greek cultural identity in death, which might win them some points in the underworld. We don't know the exact reason, but the intention seems pretty clear. Just like the Book of the Dead offered a map and spells for safe passage, this piece of the Iliad was likely seen as a powerful new tool for the exact same job, a bit of Greek magic for an Egyptian problem. The New World. This one mummy doesn't just tell a story about one person. It paints a picture of an ancient world that was way more connected and fluid than we usually imagine. It shows real people navigating a complex world, picking and choosing from the cultural and spiritual options around them. You've got an Egyptian burial ritual in a Roman-style tomb using a Greek epic poem, all to help one person's hope for living forever. This kind of discovery is a powerful reminder that history isn't just a series of separate cultures. It's a story of constant mixing, matching, and making something new. People in Roman Egypt didn't have to choose between being Egyptian or Greek. They could be both. They could honor the traditions of their ancestors while also grabbing onto powerful new ideas and stories that were flowing into their world. The mummy with the Iliad shows us a deeply human impulse to use every single tool you have when you're facing the great unknown. For this person, the promise of the Egyptian afterlife was best secured with a little help from a Greek poet. It shows us that for ancient people, a story wasn't just entertainment. It could be a shield, a key, and a prayer. It could be immortal. From a dusty tomb in Egypt, a 1,600-year-old mummy has shared an incredible secret. Not a secret of gold, but of the surprising power of a good story. The discovery of Homer's Iliad being used as a funerary object shows us a world where cultures crashed into each other, blended, and created something new and amazing. It reveals a time when a Greek epic could become an Egyptian magical text, and a list of ships could become a map to the next life. This single piece of papyrus forces us to rethink the lines we draw between literature, religion, and magic. And it leaves us with a really cool question. When did a book stop being just a book and start becoming a magical object? What other immortal secrets are still out there, hiding in plain sight, just waiting for us to ask the right questions? Let us know what you think in the comments.